This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. All members of the public will be given a reasonable time to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that is the subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received by noon today concerning the subject bylaw have been circulated to council and are available to the public as part of the meeting package. Staff will provide their report, followed by an opportunity for the applicant to speak. Members of the public who have pre-registered to speak have been added to the speakers list in the order that their requests were received. Anyone who is not pre-registered may call into the conference line during the live meeting by dialing 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. There will be an opportunity for public comment according to the speakers list, followed by comment from those who have just joined the meeting. Speakers will be asked to state their name and civic address. Please note that all representations, whether written, in person, or electronic, are available to the public for viewing as part of the public record. Remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker and should include all of the relevant information in the presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded all members of the public to speak a second or third time with new information only once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place during the regular council meeting following the conclusion of the public hearing. At that time, any questions of staff will be for clarification purposes only. The corporate officer will now provide information on the notice of this public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice of the public hearing was given by posting on the notice board at Municipal Hall, advertising in the Summerland Review issues of February the 25th and March the 4th, and mailing 94 notices to owners and occupiers of surrounding properties on February 24th, 2021.
Thank you. So the public hearing that we are discussing tonight is the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 9800 Turner Street, Z20-007. I will now turn this over to Ariane, who's going to speak on behalf of the district.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right. Okay, so an application to amend the official community plan future land use designation and to rezone a property located at 9800 Turner Street to facilitate the construction of a 17-unit multifamily building was given first and second reading on February 22nd. The property's official community plan future land use designation is currently medium density residential, and it's zoned for the residential strata housing zone. The uses within the surrounding area are largely residential and include a multifamily development to the west of the property, and the surrounding area around the periphery is largely agricultural. So these photos provide a bit of context to the property and particularly to the slope. They also demonstrate how the La Vista Ridge development to the west of the property is built into the slope, which is similar to what's being proposed through this application. So the proposal represents the final phase of the La Vista developments, which began in the early 1990s. There's quite a bit of history to this parcel, as the original concept was to continue the medium density townhouse development that was just shown in the previous slide onto the subject property. With this in mind, access and services to the parcel from Turner Street are established through easements and right-of-ways over La Vista Country Estates, further reinforcing that this property was always intended to be developed, and particularly for multifamily buildings. At this time, the developer is requesting a change to the official community plan land use designation to high density residential and to rezone the property to the residential high density zone to facilitate the construction of a 17-unit multifamily building. The concept consists of 12 apartment units fronting Turner Street and 5 townhouses abutting Thompson Road. Of the 17 units, 12 would be 1-bedroom units and 5 would be 2-bedroom units with sizes ranging between 815 square feet to 1,270 square feet. The OCP and zoning amendments would be the first stage of bringing this development into fruition. The applicant has noted that they would like to have the land use secured before formally bringing forward the multifamily development permit, which would address the form and character of the building, and development variance permits that would be required for lot coverage, some minor setbacks, and bicycle parking, and these would be brought forward to council for consideration. So I'll speak to the renderings and design in greater detail soon, but I wanted to introduce the concept first. The image on the left demonstrates the townhouses abutting Thompson, and the image to the right is from within La Vista, and it also shows access to the parkade. So all parking is provided on site, and the proponent is actually proposing a parking plan that exceeds zoning bylaw standards, which require 24 stalls, and they're proposing 27. And the parking is divided between the discrete garage and then also along Thompson Road in front of the townhouses. So the developer has also noted that this development is intended to cater to households looking to downsize, which is reflected in the proposed floor plans. So the units are quite modest in size, and they also include separate storage areas and are intended to cater to folks who are looking to downsize and live in smaller spaces. Also, one other thing to note too, so the 5 townhouses will have a separate entrance from Thompson Road, and the developer is also proposing another entrance to the apartments and also to the amenity spaces from Thompson as well, which is highlighted on the right over here. So the urban growth strategy identifies the urban growth area as the primary planning tool when considering new development and intensification of land uses within the district. Infill development is strongly encouraged within the growth area to limit suburban sprawl and to contain development around a central core that can be efficiently serviced. The proposed multifamily development is located within the growth area and on a parcel that is currently serviced and vacant. This proposal aligns with the objectives of the urban growth strategy, as the lot is currently underutilized and is located in close proximity to existing services and the district's central core. The OCP also encourages confining high-density residential developments to areas primarily surrounding downtown and lower town due to their proximity to services. The appropriateness of high-density development is evaluated on the following criteria. These considerations are the basis of staff's analysis with respect to the proposed development. So the first being compatible with adjoining land uses. So the adjacent parcel to the west of the property is zoned residential medium density and currently has a multi-family townhouse development comprised of 3 buildings with 4 units in each. The original plan, as I mentioned, was to continue this development onto the subject property by adding 2 more identical buildings. Due to changing markets, however, these buildings were not constructed and the property has remained vacant. Since the early 1990s, this part of La Vista Ridge has always been intended to accommodate a multifamily development, and the proposed OCP amendment and rezoning to facilitate the development of 17 units is consistent with this adjoining use. The next is integrated design. The configuration of the site and its steep slope pose considerable development challenges. The applicant's proposal to build into the slope and stepping back the development with each story works with the current landscape and also benefits the streetscape within La Vista Estates from Turner Street and also along Thompson Road. Stepping back the development reduces the massing of the building from the street, reduces shadows, and also creates a more friendly scale for pedestrians in the surrounding single-family homes. Furthermore, the proposed townhouses along Thompson Road reflect the current form and character of the adjacent townhouses, which creates a cohesive design along the street. As previously noted, resident parking would be located within a discrete garage, and this design consideration works with the landscape and also respects the residential character of the surrounding area by not introducing a large parking lot. Okay, so the applicant provided some more renderings to the project late last week. And again, this is purely conceptual and just to give an idea of what the proposed development could look like if the OCP and zone amending bylaws are adopted. And it's at this stage that the developer would apply for a multifamily development permit, which would address color, materials, those sorts of design considerations. Okay, so high density development is encouraged along collector and arterial roads. However, most roads within close proximity to downtown, the preferred area for high density development are local roads. Although Turner Street and Thompson are classified as local roads, the constraints of finding appropriate high density residential lots in close proximity to downtown and along collector and arterial roads might be quite restrictive. The property is within walking distance to businesses along Rosedale Avenue, the downtown, and parks and schools. Most walking routes to these services are pedestrian friendly with sidewalks on one or both sides of the street. And the sidewalk master plan shows future pedestrian networks that would enhance the connectivity from this site to shops and services, and particularly along Victoria Road, where sidewalk is proposed on both sides of the street, starting at Turner. A lack of housing diversity was a key issue identified in the 2017 Affordable Summerland Affordable Housing Report. The housing stock in Summerland largely consists of single-family homes, and alternative forms of housing are either aging or in drastically short supply. There is an identified need to diversify housing options away from predominantly single-family development and within the urban growth areas to accommodate future housing demands. Multifamily developments present opportunities to address housing concerns beyond one demographic, and apartments and townhouses offer a more affordable ownership option for those entering the market, and they also provide alternatives to seniors looking to downsize and age in place. The combination of apartments and townhouses of varying sizes and bedroom configurations in this proposed development directly address this community concern. The image to the left also illustrates how little of Summerland's total land area is allocated towards medium and high density, and particularly in the downtown and lower town. So having more diverse housing options, which is recommended within the Affordable Summerland framework, requires uses that support multifamily development, which is currently not well represented within the district. Staff also recognize that La Vista Country Estates is currently a 55+ community. The applicant has noted that they will not impose age restrictions for residents of this building, and staff support this direction as it creates more diverse housing options that cater to a variety of demographics and including seniors. It should also be noted too that if future owners choose to adopt age restrictive bylaws, they can do so with votes from 3/4 of the Strata Corporation, as was similarly done for La Vista Country Estates. So overall, there is an identified need to offer more diverse housing options within the district that cater to a wide range of demographics and income levels. The variety of unit configurations, thoughtful design, and proposed housing types align with district policies. And as such, staff's recommendation is to support the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariane. Corporate Officer, we have in our agenda package 3 separate correspondence sections ending with this afternoon or today at noon. Is there any further correspondence?
Madam Mayor, there's no further correspondence, but I would like to take this time to just advise Council that there were 2 letters of support received for this application from Denise Bollinger and Gordon Pickles, as well as Lois and Wilfred Baranoik. And then there were actually 25 letters of non-support. submitted by Lee Henderson, H. Reimer, Sandra and John Nicholson, Valerie Cook, D. Reimer, Joan and Jerry Hrinchik, Diane and Eric Denny, Gary Hollingshead, Gerlind Havers, Anne Hodgkin, Mr. and Mrs. Statham, Michael and Judith Robertson, June Barbier, John and Norma Hoblack, Wendy and Eric Thomas, James and Nolene Gillis, Carol Lynn Harrison, Nancy and Lloyd Houghton, Helen Reimer, Richard Straffel, Dennis and Beverly Dijkstra, Roy and Betty Cansdale, Darlene McDougall, M. Woodbridge, and Melanie Reichel.
Thank you. Okay, there is, of course, during a public hearing, the opportunity for people to comment, the public as well, beginning with the applicant. Is the applicant with us this evening?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can, Mr. Strafel, if you would like. There you are. Okay.
I got camera. Okay, great. Good.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and online citizens. My name is Richard Strafel. I'm the owner and applicant of the subject property. I'll speak for about 5 minutes. I'm going to talk on 4 topics that were, I guess, some of the key themes within the letter. The first one I wanted to talk about, there seemed to be a lot of concern about the age group of the potential or intended marketplace. And I wanted to point out that while I don't intend to apply any age restrictions to the project as it is underway, I fully intend to build the housing in a manner that is designed to be senior oriented, as I and the District of Summerland had agreed to do with the Agricultural Land Commission when this land was originally released. And I'd like to read an excerpt from that BC Land Commission release letter, which reads, "A condition is that the lands be used only for the construction of multifamily housing oriented towards senior citizens. And once the commission has reviewed and approved the development plans, and upon approval of the zoning, the commission will then exclude these lands. This zoning application is really to provide that housing for the largest growing demographic group in Summerland over the next 20 years, which is 55 plus. And in fact, it is the 75 plus age group that will be growing most quickly. As far as zoning and density is concerned, when this land was released, it was released on the basis of being zoned RN3 multifamily residential, which allowed permitted uses for group housing, apartments, townhouses, and single dwellings such as bareland strata. And at the time, the allowable density was 20 units per acre, or a total of 200 units for the site. A development permit was issued, and preliminary approval was received for 75 bareland strata lots and 20 townhomes, or 95 units in total. This was later reduced because there was no sewer in Summerland, so we had to accommodate a packaged treatment plant and septic field, which was done. With this proposed change, we are asking that the total unit go to 88 units, which is lower than the original 95. Somewhere along the way, the zoning had changed. At the time when this land was beginning to be developed, there was only one zoning which incorporated all of the elements of the zoning that was required. And as construction costs skyrocketed and the original townhome plans that we had envisioned were ranging from 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, and now we are facing construction costs of almost $350 a square foot. The construction cost alone is becoming out of reach of the intended marketplace that we're looking for. And the housing needs in the area, and I'm including within La Vista, is people are looking for places where they can age in place. And this is becoming very important. And this means simply staying in the same community that they've been living in, usually in a smaller unit, and also as an alternative to moving to an assisted living facility or to Cherry Lane in Penticton or someplace like that. Recently at La Vista, there are residents who have lost a loved one. People are single, they've had to move out as there are no smaller unit alternatives. There are other Summerland residents who are house rich, but have no suitable downsizing options within the community except to move to Penticton. This zoning would free up desperately needed single-family housing elsewhere if empty nesters have suitable options to choose from in their own community. And the size of the units that we're proposing appeals to that downsizing community with 13 one-bedrooms and 4 two-bedrooms. Another issue that has come up has been in regards to visitors parking and access. And there's a couple of elements. I think our intended buyers are less likely to have multiple vehicles, and those vehicles will be smaller. And also, as we're moving into the future, the trend towards electrification and car sharing is becoming much more common, and we anticipate that they'll end up being surplus parking for new owners as well as their visitors. To summarize, what we want to build is what was originally intended for the use of this land, senior-oriented housing. The impact to existing La Vista residents will be minimal. The positive impact of these units to the Summerland community at large will be significant. Importantly, valuable land will be properly utilized to the community benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strafel.
Yes, sir. Leave it.
I'm wondering if either of the architects were intending to speak tonight, or is that simply that you're here to answer questions that might arise?
They'll be here to answer questions.
Okay.
That's our intention. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. The first speaker that I have on the list here is Steve Rowe. Is Steve Rowe with us?
Yes, I'm here. Unfortunately, I don't believe I have a video connect, so I can just speak through this.
Yes, that would be fine. We saw you. Oh, there you are again.
There we are. Okay. Yeah, it's all these fancy buttons to push.
Okay, please go ahead.
Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Steve Rowe. My wife and I live on the main La Vista access. La Vista is a gated 55-plus retirement community. We care for our homes and yards, and the property values are high. We have earned this lifestyle, and we have invested a premium to live here. An open demographic apartment block amidst our strata would change the character of our calm, secure, gated community. There is a high level of concern by residents, as shown by the petition and the many letters sent to council. My main issues with this proposal are a shift of demographics accompanied by increased activity through the heart of our strata, and the non-compliance with many of the bylaw standards. I will focus on the 6 evaluation criteria as identified in the planner's report and used by Summerland to define what is appropriate high-density development. Criteria 1, compatible with adjoining uses. An open demographic apartment block would not be compatible with our retirement lifestyle. We have already had our time with skateboarding kids, teenagers learning to drive, late night apartment parties, and with busy work and school pickup schedules. We love our grandkids and enjoy their visits, but then they go home. 2, adequate separation or mitigation from surrounding use. There is no separation. An open demographic apartment would be mingled within our retirement community, using access through the core of our strata. There's no mitigation for an increased busyness, for inadequate amenity space, and for inadequate visitor parking. And the entrance viewscape along most of the La Vista access would be a tall monolithic structure dominating by the width and by the height. 3, direct access, vehicle access that is, to a major road. While not a major road, Thompson Road may take some traffic, but most residents and visitors would use the gated La Vista access. The 1990s easement did not anticipate this type or this level of development, and excess use may legally overburden this easement. Criteria 4, pedestrian access to public facilities. Access for pedestrians, bicycles, skateboards, and pet walking would be along the full length of the La Vista access. We know that kids will be kids, but we could anticipate noise, trespass, nuisance, and security issues. 5, it is not appropriate, the fifth criteria is appropriately cater to a range of demographics. And it is not appropriate to merge an open apartment block into a 55+ gated community. There would be no restrictions in either the sales or in rentals of the units. And finally, criteria 6, consistent building and landscape design. The truth is in the details. The proposed building is non-conformant with many zoning standards. This building does not properly fit within the subject, or the building does not properly fit within the subject property. According to the bylaws, by definition, the front property line separates the lot from a street. Logically, this would be at the townhouse entrances at Thompson Road, which is the only public street. This front setback is 6 meters, as is shown, although with a small encroachment. But the required parking space setback is 3 meters, which basically excludes on-site parking in this area. They want the setback to be reduced to 1.6. Without legal parking at Thompson Road and with a gated parkade, any visitors, extra resident vehicles, and larger vehicles would be forced to park off-site on the La Vista access or along Thompson Road. Also, the required rear setback, which is at La Vista, is 9 meters. They want 6. Also, the required side setbacks are 6 meters. They want 4.5 and 1.5. Also, the amenity space is deficient, and the maximum lot coverage and the maximum floor area ratio standards are both exceeded. This lack of suitable amenity space may entice the younger residents to search out our strata's common areas for tag, street hockey, to sneak a smoke, or just hang out. In closing, the developer wants to postpone discussion on these non-compliant bylaws and also to postpone defining any utility upgrades that may affect our strata. These issues are pertinent right now as part of this discussion. All 6 appropriateness criteria get a fail. This proposal does not fit the character of our retirement neighborhood, and it does not even fit the lot. A rezoning would shift an increased value to the subject property at the expense of existing landowners. This proposal is not appropriate. I am one of many relying on council to reject this proposal. Thank you for this opportunity to comment and to object.
Thank you. The next person I have on the line is Lee Henderson. Is Lee with us this evening? I see a last name, Don Henderson. Is that?
I think she just needs to unmute.
Oh, so the person that is titled Don Henderson, if you would like to speak, could you please unmute your mic?
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
I believe that Lee Henderson may be on the call, but may not wish to speak.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's fine. I don't have anyone else here on my speakers list. Do you have others that may have registered with you, Karen?
I have none other on the speakers list. However, there may be someone on the line that's joined during the meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if there's anybody else in the public that would like to speak to the matter that is before us with this public hearing. I'll ask a second time. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the matter that is before us this evening?
Madam Mayor, is there an opportunity to further respond, or do we wait for the others?
There will be, but I just want to make sure that everybody has had the first time to speak.
All right, thank you.
For the third and final time, is there anybody that would like to speak to the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment at 9800 Turner Street? Okay, I will go back to you, Mr. Strafel.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to respond to Mr. Rowe's a couple of the points. At this stage, I cannot provide any guarantees in terms of the age issue, because it's really nothing that can be applied to land zoning as far as I am aware. I did want to point out in regards to the site services was one comment that had come up. We did have an engineer do a review of the critical component of the site services, specifically the sewer system. And we received an engineer's report that with the new building, with the 17 extra units, that the total used capacity of the current sewer system within La Vista would be at 20% of its maximum capacity. And this is in line with when we had originally designed and built the project. We in fact sized the sewer for 200 units at that time. In regards to road and access traffic, that's a challenging one to really respond to. I can only speak from my personal experience. Where I currently live, I live in an adult community of 500 condominiums on a 3-acre site, and we have a single cul-de-sac that's 75 meters long, and we have all of our visitors parking on the street. And we've really, other than during the Christmas holidays, we've never had an issue with visitors parking or traffic or any issues like that. So that's the only experience that I can speak to for myself personally. I don't, people's perception of what is traffic and parking problem, I think can vary. And again, back to the various variances and setbacks and so forth. What we basically did was we took the exact same footprint that we had with what would have been the original 2 townhomes, and we used all of the same measurements and setbacks that were applied to the existing 3 townhome buildings. And some of the separations that were quoted, for example, 1.6 meters is one single corner of the property that has no residential adjacent to it and no possible chance of anything being built there, in that it is not a buildable site. So, again, what we're trying to do is build within exactly the same footprint that had originally been approved for the project, but with, units that are affordable under the current construction cost constraints that we have to deal with. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Council, do you have any questions of Richard Strafel? All right. Council, do you have any questions of either Brad or Ariane? Where is Ariane? There. Councillor Carlson, and then Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. Just one. My understanding is that La Vista isn't a gated community. There's a wall, but there's no barrier with a magnet stripe or anything like that. Is that correct? And does that define a gated community?
Yeah, it's not a gated community, no, as far as like a physical barrier goes.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes, and then Councillor Traynor.
I unmuted myself. This is Steve Rowe here, and I'm not on video.
Excuse me, Mr. Rowe. Your opportunity to speak again has passed. We've given the opportunity, I've asked 3 times for people that wanted to speak to the public hearing. And now we are on to, the process is on to council's opportunity to ask questions of staff.
I think point of order, Madam Mayor. I don't think
Yeah.
we're doing that. Are we supposed to do that right now? Council, I think that's later, isn't it? When we talk about this.
Karen?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just to clarify for council, this is the time to ask questions of staff. Once the public hearing is closed, then council can debate amongst themselves the merits of the application.
Thank you. So my question was appropriate?
Yes, it
Correct.
was. Yes.
Just want to confirm. Thank you.
Okay. So on to Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Traynor.
Okay, thank you. So I understand that you can't apply age restrictions at zoning. However, is there any reason why this has to be a separate strata? Is there any reason it can't be incorporated as part of the La Vista strata?
Through your worship to Councillor Holmes, thank you for the question. I'm not too sure of the strata legal requirements to do that. There is an existing strata in place. This property isn't included in that strata right now, so they would need to, I guess, get an agreement from the existing strata. Actually, Richard probably would have a better handle of the strata legal requirements to be included as part of the strata, if you're willing to hear from the applicant.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll come back to that because that requires a vote of council. Councillor Traynor.
I just wanted clarification, I guess, about access to this building. I know we've talked about it before, but Brad, could you just remind us what the agreement is for accessing the building?
Yeah, we got a, sorry, thanks, Councillor Traynor. We did get a legal opinion that there is an access through the strata with the landowner of the subject property, and that was put in place at the time of when the strata was developed. That's over top of the main road that goes through the strata and is identified through a right-of-way agreement. And there's 2 separate agreements. There's one for vehicle access through the strata, and then the other one is for access to the district sewer facility that goes through the strata.
Okay, and I have one more question, if that's okay. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
When it comes to age restrictions, is up to the developer, is that right? That doesn't have anything to do with the district in terms of zoning?
That's correct. Yeah. As what's been previously stated by the applicant, that could be something that they consider at a future date. We don't determine age restrictions through zoning. In fact, we may be liable or taken to court if we do, if we had zoning that had that type of inclusion included in the amendment. So I think that this could be something that could be considered at a later date by the people within that strata.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. Council, any more questions? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, to our Director of Development Services. Looking at the aerials, once is at the very end, I guess it would be the west end of La Vista, where the 3 fourplexes are, for fire department response. Is that a 12-meter cul-de-sac? And if it's not a 12-meter cul-de-sac for a fire truck to turn around, where is the fire truck going to turn around once that building goes in?
Yeah, through your worship, thank you, Councillor Patton. I'm not too sure of the dimensions of the turnaround at the end of Turner Street. That's something that would have been designed at the initial development phase of this entire strata development. It would have been something that would have been evaluated at that point in terms of the turnaround and it being satisfied by our fire department at the time to turn around. Given that it's a cul-de-sac type of design, it could have the dimension requirements that are required for turnaround requirements, but again, I can't comment on the exact dimensions.
If I may, Madam Mayor. So with the addition of the density, will we be looking at fire department access in regards to the site?
Yeah, the lot is unique in that they have double fronting road frontage. I guess you could say, although one is a strata road through the Turner Street, but the fire department would have the ability to access a fire via Thompson Road, and there would be a number of fire hydrants probably located along that road to connect into. So that may be the appropriate place where they'd connect, but again, they may choose to come from the other side as well. I'm not too sure.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, Council, any more questions for Ariane or Brad? Okay, so Brad, you were suggesting that Mr. Strafel could better answer the question posed by Councillor Holmes. Council, are you in favor of that? Yes? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Holmes.
Well, my question was, why would this have to be a separate strata? Why couldn't it be incorporated as part of the La Vista strata to ensure that age restriction?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Holmes. The stratas are, there's in fact 2 existing stratas at La Vista. There are the bare land stratas down below, and that strata really applies only to the land that the houses are perched on. On the ridge portion or the hillside portion, because we have to construct the buildings in place, the strata includes building common ownership and maintenance and so forth. So each of the stratas are separate from each other, and then they have cost sharing arrangements for sharing costs of things like site services, common maintenance and so forth for the lands, road clearance, snow, and so forth. So the 2 strata councils operate independently. They in fact do not have identical bylaws. They have their own unique set of bylaws. The age restrictions within country estates were actually only relatively recently, if you like, made enforceable by being registered on the strata plan in 2012. Prior to that, it was 55 plus by reputation. As far as I know, for the rich, I don't believe that they actually have any age restrictions as far as ownership of the units. They do have age restrictions in regards to any unit that may be rented out to be 55 plus. And again, typically when a new condominium project is being built, you focus your product to your intended market through design, as opposed to just saying, you know, you got to be a particular age. Generally speaking, in other provinces across Canada, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland are the exceptions. You are not allowed to provide age restrictions unless the project is intended to provide some sort of care facility or assisted living capabilities, where those age restrictions can then be introduced. So here, I generally take the position we do it by design, and then the residents, if they want to add to the standard BC bylaws, they're welcome to do so. And that worked out well actually for La Vista, and that's the way we targeted initially with no age restrictions, but we achieved 100% success rate in reaching the market that we were intending to. And I don't expect anything different in this particular case.
Okay, Council, if there are not, are there any more questions for Ariane or Brad, staff? Okay, I'm going to declare this public meeting closed then. And we will get on to, once I find my agenda. Here we are. We will get on to the regular council meeting. Good evening. Regular council evening meeting for Monday, March the 8th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. Watch the meeting live or recorded by viewing it on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. You may request to speak during the meeting. Those who have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities may connect to the meeting by calling the meeting conference line at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. After I have provided everybody who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be opened for those on the conference line. Karen, Corporate Officer, are there any any late items to introduce?
There are no late items, Madam Mayor, but I do understand there may be a notice of motion. Councillor Van Alphen has a notice of motion that he'll present under that item.
Okay. Council, could I have someone bring forward the amended agenda, please? Thank you, Councillor Traynor. Councillor Van Alphen. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And then we just have one set of minutes to adopt. That is the February 22nd evening council meeting. Anything to change or update on those minutes? Okay, could I have somebody make the motion for adoption, please? Councillor Van Elfen, seconded by Councillor Barkwell. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And so we will get right into the body of the meeting here by talking about the official community plan amendment and zoning bylaw for 9800 Turner Street. So the subject of our public hearing. We don't need another update. Council, it's time now for discussion. So if I could have somebody bring this forward so that we can have a discussion on this. Councillor Van Elfen, seconder. Councillor Trainer. Okay, and who'd like to start us off? Does anybody have some comments? You can certainly ask questions for clarification only. Councillor Van Elfen.
Just comments, Madam Mayor. Listening to Arian present this evening, it ticks a lot of boxes off for me. The densification, the closeness to our downtown, walkable. Definitely infill. It meets a lot of the criteria that I look for as a councillor, and I'm just looking forward to hearing my fellow councillors' opinions. Thank you.
Thank you for starting us off, Councillor Van Elfen. Councillor Barkwell.
I think that, like so many, if not all of these sort of proposals, there's pros and cons. And what really impacts for me here is that, you can get hung up on semantics about whether it's a gated community or not a gated community, whether they pull the gate across that I think is there or they don't bother pulling it. It is in essence the concept, the feel, and the a gated community being, it's all uniform. And I think that the people who have bought into that location have bought into a plan. And I think that they have the right to see that the remaining development conforms to the original plan for the last little bit of it that is there. And it's not like the original plan doesn't give us good density. I understand there are fourplexes that are next to it, and that fourplexes would normally be what we consider good density. And I appreciate that the candor of all the information that Mr. Strafel has provided, but in some respects, and this isn't the right term, but I'll use it with apologies, that it feels a bit like a bait and switch. They bought into one project and now it's going to be something different. And the same thing happened up in Cartwright development there, where there was an overall development plan. And then the developer came along and wanted to change that. And the existing residents there, they objected quite loudly, and we listened to them, and we didn't approve the change. And I think what would be appropriate here, which would still accomplish a lot of the goals, is development identical to the fourplexes that are next door.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, that's, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines here. It was noted the original concept was to continue the multifamily development to the west of the property on Turner, except it's not doing that. The continuation is through La Vista. It's not through those properties on Turner. And so that changes things quite a bit. Now, regardless that the easement, there might be technically possible or legally possible, whatever, I don't think anybody thought at the time that the purpose of that road was to gain access to another strata entirely. I wasn't satisfied with my answer, with the answer to my question of why couldn't it become part of the La Vista strata? It was just because they don't want to. I guess that's, but that would address the age concerns. I think people have some valid concerns, and it's certainly, I agree with Councillor Van Elfen, it ticks a lot of boxes, but these concerns that people have, I don't think that enough has been done to address those concerns. I haven't seen them. I think we need to recognize that this strata is encroaching on the La Vista strata, and that needs to be resolved. And I don't think they're so far apart that it couldn't be resolved, but a little work to resolve those differences, work with the strata council and come up with a solution. I think they can do it, but you know, I don't really just want to ram this through without addressing their concerns. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Anyone else? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel the same as Councillor Barkwell and Councillor Holmes. I think that what we found is the folks in La Vista, they bought into a concept and they bought into a dream of a over 55 gated community. And I think that by the addition of the 17 units, the multi on the other, on the far side, I think there's going to be an overburden on a strata road that isn't built as a thoroughfare road. And I think that I love Cal's designs. Cal's a phenomenal architect, and I'm sure that some redesign can happen where it would be more pleasing for the residents of La Vista. But I do concur. With Councillor Van Elpen, it hits a lot of the boxes. I think, though, that it's just missed a little bit of the mark where the residents themselves of La Vista haven't been heard in regards to their needs in regards to another development on that strata property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Anyone else? Councillor Carlson.
It sounds like there's some questions here about how to compromise to come up with something better. I think something better that would address the concerns of the residents, that is. One of the things that really sticks out for me, and I think we need to think about, is that there's not enough one bedroom condo type units in this community for that downsizing purpose. You know, people don't necessarily want 2 floors, don't necessarily want 2 bedrooms. And so that I believe is one of the biggest considerations that the developer and the architect have put into this. And so how many, you know, if they want to continue doing 1 bedroom, is 12 too many? Is 6 what people would like? I mean, the difference between 12 and 17 isn't significant. We're not talking about putting in 40 or 50 or 60 condos. The conversation right now is about 17 units, majority of which would be a single bedroom. And so I guess my concern with it is that wouldn't be the option anymore if council says, oh no, you need to do something else. Does that mean something bigger? Does that mean bigger units where now you have 2 vehicles at each unit? It becomes less affordable for the people who we're talking about downsizing to do that aging in place. I think it's a serious consideration. I believe something should go right there. I don't know if this is what it is right now. And I guess that's where I'm challenged on this as well, because I understand that through the strata process, it can be complicated. I've never lived in a strata, but I know that there's a lot of rules involved, and it makes it hard for council to have to also be involved in those decisions. But I do think it's important that the facts that were presented tonight about the density of that acreage, this would be 88 units versus the 95 originally approved. I think that's really important also to consider for council as we make this decision this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Trainer.
I agree with some of my fellow councillors. I think that there is some room for compromise here. And I think the issue that we have is that it's not like we have a development going onto kind of a fresh piece of property. Like this is trying to fit a development into an already established neighborhood. And because it's already established, I do think that we really need to pay attention to what the neighbors are saying. And so I do like the proposal, but I think that hopefully the developer and the stratas can work together to maybe find a little bit more common ground. Again, because this is already an established neighborhood, I think that we kind of have a duty to try to make this work between the two sides.
I guess it's my turn now. I agree with a lot of what I've heard tonight as well, just as Councillor Trainer just said. I think that the biggest piece here is not so much the, if I dare say this, not so much the age demographic, although we've heard somebody speak tonight quite strongly about that. I think that Councillor Trainer has just said, exactly what I've been thinking, and that is that this is an already established neighborhood, and the form and character needs to fit. And I'm not saying that having this this number of units doesn't necessarily fit there, but I am saying that if we've got, this is such a difficult decision. I understand also what Councillor Carlson was saying in terms of having the opportunity for people that are getting older, that want to downsize, empty nesters, maybe even have gone to being a single person again, having the ability to stay in Summerland, but also to live in a place that is more suitable for the size of what they need in terms of their living accommodation, and something certainly that is affordable. So it's really difficult. It's really difficult to speak about the proposal that's in front of us when what we need to do really is decide whether we are in favor of a OCP and a bylaw amendment. I'm a little, and I realize my opportunity is past, but it seems to me, hearing that originally the design was for 95 units and there are 88 units, I'm wondering why that would be different for the zoning, but I'm not going to ask that question. It's just something that's floating around in my head. So having said all of that, I'm not sure which way I'm going to vote on this tonight. I'm kind of torn between what I feel is the need in Summerland. Lots of councillors and Mr. Strafel and others have spoken about that, including our staff. So I'm torn between that, and I'm torn between what has been presented to us tonight in terms of what it will look like. So, the form and character in this particular neighborhood, in the La Vista neighborhood, I don't think that it fits. So I'm in a bit of a toss-up here. Councillor Trainer.
This is a question for clarification for our Director of Development Services. If council turns down these amendments, what are the options for the developer? And because I think that we've all expressed that we're interested in this for sure, but that we're looking for some kind of compromise or something like that. So what options are there available?
If council decides to deny the rezoning at third reading, it's basically what we're looking for tonight, then this rezoning application would die. So basically, the developer would be required to submit a new rezoning application with a different concept for consideration.
Councillor Barkwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question would be for our Director of Development Services. Would OCP and zoning amendment be required if the developer was to just go with the identical fourplexes that are along that bank now?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Barkwell, that's a great question. Thank you for that. The OCP designation is medium density residential, which would allow the continuation of the same type of form of development as what's to the west, I believe, of this site. However, the residential strata housing is the zoning, RSH, I believe right now. I'm not too sure if that would accommodate that form. Ariane's saying no. So I think I think it would still require a rezoning amendment, but not an OCP amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Question through our planner, if I may. So regardless of what, it goes 17 units or we go with the original situation that's there today, we have no say on age restrictions. That's up to the new strata council in that building. Am I correct? They can vote in the future to say, yeah, they're going to put an age restriction on it, but we can't do that, or the developer can't do that either at this point in time. Correct or not?
That's correct. Yeah, for all of our senior facilities throughout the district, even when they do have age restrictions, or even if they're care facilities, for example, they don't have this specific zoning that restricts that age. That isn't permitted authorization through zoning. However, it could be something that's written into the Strata Act, or sorry, the Strata bylaws that is registered on with the Strata. So most of the senior housing that we have within our community is zoned high density residential, if it's an apartment building, for example, or medium density. We have a few medium density senior housing projects as well. But we just primarily look at the form and density and residential use for the zoning, not who's living in those units per se.
You have another question, Councillor Van Elfen?
I do,
For
Madam Mayor.
clarification? Okay.
Yes, please. So the 17 units, not all the units are going to be, all the traffic is going to be through La Vista. Some is going to be up on Turner. Am I correct?
That's correct.
How many units on the top of Turner? 4?
Maybe Ariane can answer that one.
5 units.
5 units up top. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell.
It's been suggested that the 1-bedroom units are where the market is, but I'm not convinced of that. I don't have any evidence that it's wrong. I don't know what evidence there is that it's right, but speaking from personal experience, and 2-bedroom units for retirees is usually considered downsizing for most people. It leaves 1 bedroom for guests and 1 bedroom for the couple. I don't see myself a big pressure for 1-bedroom units, but that's just voicing my opinion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, could I ask someone to bring forward a motion, please?
It's already on the floor, Madam Mayor.
Oh, pardon me. I didn't realize that it was. Okay. So then I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Holmes, are you going to vote? Thank you. So that is defeated then. So Councillor Barkwell, Holmes, myself, Patton, and Trainer were all opposed. Okay, thank you, Ariane and Brad. On to item 6, which is the mayor's report. First of all, happy International Women's Day. Women and men. I was listening to a podcast this morning and panelists were talking about a number of items, including misogyny and racism in all levels of government. Gillian Oliver, a political strategist, summed up their conversation with this thought. We all need to remember that freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability, and your words and actions matter. I thought that was bang on. On the evening of February the 23rd, I attended the Summerland Healthy Community Initiative's presentation on food security. Presenters included representatives from Interior Health, Kwantlen Polytechnic University, who's doing the food system project, bioregion food system project, and the Summerland Food Bank. And prior to the question and answer session, we saw a video about the 2020 Halloween for Hunger event. This was a very informative virtual event, and I'd like to give a special shout out to Leah Herman and Phoebe Chalmers of the SSS leadership class and their teacher Myron Dewick for the video. February the 24th, I attended the second virtual session of 8 of the Southern Interior Local Government Association Speaker Series. Union of BC Municipalities President Brian Frankel spoke about a number of additional challenges local governments are facing due to COVID-19 and the advocacy work UBCM and other local government organizations are doing with the province. On Wednesday, March the 3rd, we heard from a panel discussion, so this is with the SILGA series again, on connectivity specifically to rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. Panelists included representatives from the Ministry of Citizen Services, TELUS, and Shaw. This week, registered participants will hear from Dr. Albert de Villiers, Chief Medical Officer for Interior Health, and he will be speaking about the dual health crises of COVID-19 and opioids. Provincial health authorities have started a weekly call for mayors and chairs to provide updates on the COVID-19 vaccination rollout. I attended this call on February the 25th and March the 4th. Interior Health has launched phase 2 of BC's immunization plan. You can visit interiorhealth.ca/COVID-19 for the latest updates and information on eligibility and how to book your COVID-19 immunization appointment. Now, this is for people in the senior range and Indigenous elders. This link has been added to the district's website and posted on the district's Facebook page. And finally, on February the 26th, Council had a short special meeting to adopt the 5-year financial plan bylaw. CAO stat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pleased to present my report to Council tonight. Our electric utility has seen a 30% increase in electrical service requests for the 2 months starting 2021, with new requests coming every day. This is an even more significant increase in comparison to 2019, which would represent itself over a 400% increase over a 2-year period. The electric utility is focusing all its resources on this new customer demand. I wanted council to be aware of the good news that we have now hired the engineering technician term position that will be supporting our landfill efforts. Mr. Danny Santano will be moving to the community from Kelowna to fill this position starting March 29. Mr. Santano, as well as the district's landfill equipment operator and the manager of environmental services, will work from a trailer being set up on site at the landfill. We've also been working towards greening our corporate fleet in accordance with council's vision. In 2021, we intend to add 3 electric SUVs to our fleet that will replace renewals that otherwise would have been gasoline-powered vehicles. We will keep pushing towards continuous improvement to reduce our emissions in accordance with the emissions reduction expectations that council has put forward. Finally, I wanted council to be aware that there's been several instances of verbally abusive and bullying behaviors by some members of the public in the district main office building. It is important that we maintain a zero tolerance approach when it comes to bullying and verbal harassment of staff. So I have asked that some signage be placed in public service areas for that regard. A future newsletter message to the community will include a piece that states we aim for a high level of customer service from a position of mutual respect and civility, and that in-person service is a privilege which can be revoked for a customer when their behaviors create an unsafe or disrespectful atmosphere for our public servants. And with that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Council, any questions? All right. I do not have anyone listed on the public comment opportunity. Karen, do you have any update on that for me?
I have no one on my list as well, Madam Mayor. There's
Okay.
another opportunity at the end of the meeting, of course.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will go on to development reports. 9.1, development variance permit 21801 Garnet Valley Road, DVP 21-004. And is it Alex? Yes.
Sorry, just trying to get my camera on here. There we are. Alrighty, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen again here. All right. So the district has received an application for variance to decrease the minimum required side setback to bring an existing building into conformance at 21801 Garnet Valley Road. In the OCP, the future land designations of the subject property are rural, residential, and agricultural. And it is split zoned, having both A2 agricultural large acreage and CR1 country residential designations. These land uses are consistent with neighboring properties. It should be noted that the property is located within the agricultural land reserve. No approval is required. However, a referral was submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission. A late response was received this morning. ALC staff have shared some concerns about the potential conflicts with farming on the adjacent property and the potential for shading. For this reason, ALC staff did not support the issuance of this variance. The subject property is also located in an environmentally sensitive development permit area. However, the building or the development site in question is actually outside of the identified area, so there is no action needed on this. The owners of the property purchased the lot in 2003. At this time, an existing foundation was in place, which had been constructed in anticipation of adding a garage to the existing home. The current owners proceeded to construct this garage/shop on the existing foundation without the benefit of a building permit or a development variance permit to address the zoning bylaw and building code considerations. On June 16th, 2020, the Development Services Department received a bylaw enforcement complaint with regard to this addition and its proximity to the property line. A survey of the property was requested by district staff, which showed the structure in question to be sited 0.7 meters from the interior property line of the adjacent parcel. Further investigation also determined that there was no building permit on record for this addition. Due to these findings, staff requested that the property owners apply for a development variance permit and then subsequently, if approved, a building permit to bring the property into compliance. Section 8.2.6 M3 identifies the required side interior setback for principal and accessory buildings in the A2 zone as 4 meters. The applicant is requesting a reduction from 4 meters to 0.7 meters to bring the existing structure into conformance. While reducing setbacks is seldom encouraged as it can disrupt from the form and character of a neighborhood, the variance proposed is not anticipated to negatively impact the streetscape. The house and addition have been encroaching into the required setback since it was built in 2003. It should be noted that the applicants will be required to obtain a building permit for the structure that addresses all building code issues. Although the requested variance is large, it is required to legitimize the current siting of the dwelling. As such, staff recommend approval of the proposed setback variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Councillor Carlson.
I have a question. It may be for Alex or for Brad. I just wanted to thank Mr. Roney for spending the time that he spent writing his essays about not only this property, but others in Summerland. And I'm wondering if through this process and when you receive something like that, what's your process going forward other than saying thank you for your feedback? Will it come to council for a conversation? Is it something that Development Services is already aware of? He's obviously made quite a few points in there, and I would hate for us to just brush it off and forget to respond however we need to respond.
Please go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to, through your worship to council, any of the correspondence that's received associated with an application that specifically requests correspondence from the public on a specific item is always meant to further provide information for council's consideration. So in this instance, this particular piece of correspondence was received, and it is the wish of council to ask questions about or to verify any of the information in the correspondence you've received.
Thank you, Karen. This is a development variance permit, so this could be considered a public has taken the opportunity to comment on it. Is that correct, Karen? Yes, that's how we can look at that. So, Councillor Carlson, did you want to speak to the correspondence received from Mr. Roney, or?
Well, I guess my concern is that if we don't at least respond and acknowledge that his input has been received and that it's been read by staff and that we're aware of what he's asking, I just worry that we might otherwise be negligent in responding to. He's got a few concerns in there, so as we would to a regular piece of correspondence, I just don't want to let that slide.
Councillor Holmes.
I understand the point that you don't want to you want to encourage people to come forward on their own to make things into compliance. But if I remember correctly, this really came about because the lot next door had asked for a variance, and it was a kind of a complicated neighbor to neighbor thing, and that's why we're dealing with it now, I believe. And so it's a little bit, I say this is a little bit different than somebody I think just going to build something and with intentionally not, applying for a permit and then getting caught. So I think it's a little bit different in this case.
Are there any questions of staff other than the one that you posed, Councillor Carlson? Could I ask someone to bring forward a motion then, please? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council authorized insurance of development variance permit DVP 21-004 for a property located at 21801 Garnet Valley Road, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 479, a Soyuz Division Yale District Plan KAP 2429, and that a variance to the following sections of the zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Side yard setback section 8.2.6 to vary the minimum interior side setback from 4.0 meters permitted to 0.7 meters.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes, thank you. Okay, further discussion on this. Councillor Trainer.
These ones are always really tough because I feel like every time we approve one of these, it kind of, for all the people that are waiting in line to do it properly, it must be so frustrating for them. But I mean, ultimately the building is already built, and by approving it, then I believe Alex said that they have to get a development permit. Is that right? A proper one, which would mean an inspection. Is that right?
Yeah, so through the mayor, they'll be required to obtain a building permit, which will address all building code issues with having a property that close to a property line. So things like fire separation, all those things will be addressed in the building code.
Right, and so I think those things are what matter to us because those things ultimately protect life, and I think that's the most important thing here.
Is anyone else not able to hear Councillor Trainer? Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to Councillor Trainer. Councillor Patton, would you like to? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm as for the correspondence we got, there was a foundation in 2003. By the drawings that were submitted, the addition for the workshop was done in 2006. If you look at the drawing, the eaves of the roof are on property line. It's not that we're looking at a reduction of 0.7. We have an overhang that is right on property line. And granted, building permit, they're going to have to remove it totally. But this is the same what we deal with over and over of construction happening. Let's do it and we'll ask for forgiveness later. And this is, unfortunately, this is really blatant on just building and letting it ride. And I would rather that the back of that workshop be removed and meet existing setback. So I'm not going to vote in favor. I'm going to vote that I'm going to draw my line in the sand on this one because this is just too blatant for me to ignore on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. I'm sorry that we lost you, Councillor Trainer. Would you like to continue now?
Sorry, that's like the worst time for me to cut out. The internet died here. I don't know when I froze, but Alex was able to answer my question. So I think my point was that if they get a development permit for this and that everything's in compliance, that's, I think, at the end of the day, the main goal. So that was my point. Sorry.
Okay, no, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Carlson.
So if we don't give them a variance, how do we enforce the actual removal of a building like this? Maybe, I don't know if we've done it before.
Yeah, we would work with our building official and also our new bylaw enforcement officer, Dan, to basically ask them to remove. We'd provide a warning letter first. There's a number of different mechanisms we could use under the zoning bylaw. We could fine them if they refuse to bring the property into compliance, or as well, we could take them to court and in order to get an order from a judge to remove that portion of the building. So it's a bit of a sticky enforcement file, but it's definitely done in other communities, definitely, more urban communities where there's perhaps a large reason why a building needs to be demolished and it's ordered by council to do so.
Just so on the other hand, then, if they are permitted to keep it, they could also incur significant costs in bringing this up to code. So they will then have the ability to make the decision as to what's going to be perhaps a better investment for them, whether they take it down or whether they improve. And so I will, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, through your worship, if I can respond to that, that's correct. Yeah, so there will be costs either way, probably on the applicant, and like Alex has stated, in order to get it fire rated, building wall, there may be some substantial renovations to get a building permit in place. So I think either way, the learnings will be gathered of not having a building permit first through this process by the applicant.
I just have a question. I think the answer is fairly obvious, but I just want to ask it of you. Probably Alex, you can answer this one. So where it shows the existing, I'm looking at one of the slides. It's an overhead slide. Just before the staff recommendation, it shows the existing house and garage, and then it shows the existing workshop addition. If I'm reading it properly, the side setback there, the existing house and garage, especially the garage, just touch on that 4-meter side setback, correct?
Yes.
And so if they, I think I concur with what Councillor Patton just said. This seems to be kind of, blatantly obvious. If they had continued with that, rather than build right to the property line, there wouldn't have been any need to come forward for a variance, other than somebody complained about that, and now they're kind of facing the music, as they say. Okay. Well, it just seems so obvious. I had to ask. Saying thank you. I have another question too. You said that was just today that you heard back from the Agricultural Land Commission?
Yes, that's correct. I received a response to my referral this morning. Actually, the deadline was quite a while ago, but sometimes that will happen with the ALC. So yeah, they provided comments this morning.
And their concern was because the neighboring agricultural property, it may interfere with their operation?
Yeah, they provided a comment. I can read it out here by verbatim here. So
please.
Yeah, so the AOC staff have some concerns about the potential conflicts with farming on the adjacent property and the potential for shading. For this reason, AOC staff do not support the issuance of the variance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions of staff? Any further discussion? I need to write down when I've got a motion on the floor, but pretty sure that we do have this one on the floor. Am I right? Thank you. Councillor Barkwell, did you have something else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm thinking about all the previous variances we've granted, or at least what I can recall, and the various reasons for them. Some are, you know, more or less technical. There's a corner of a deck that sticks 6 inches out into the setback, and others are more significant. And so that there's a continuum, you know. And I guess I'm going to have to say that I'm kind of leaning towards, after listening to everything people have had to say and reading the very good summary provided, that I'm leaning towards Councillor Patton's position on this one. You know, he's drawn a tougher line than I have in the past, but this time I think I'm swayed over a little bit more to his side.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Any further discussion? I'll call, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to go with the staff recommendation personally. I think that, you know, granting the variance and then applying for the building permit and going through all the, you know, the permit, you know, all the building bylaws and stuff that they have to make sure all those things and the health and safety are looked after. I can vote in favor of the recommendation. And as it was earlier stated, I believe by Councillor Holmes, unfortunately, this has been brought about, I think, between a couple of neighbors, you know, and it's very unfortunate. You know, so I have to go with the staff recommendation on this one, and you know, try to bring it into some type of compliance that's going to be safe for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will call the question. So the resolution is that this be granted. All in favor? Opposed? So Councillor Barkwell, myself, and Councillor Patton are opposed, and that granting is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, now we're on to, we don't have anything under 10 or 11, so we're on to item 12, and that is notice of motion. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, I'd like to bring forward a notice of motion. And it reads as such, that council directs staff to investigate the feasibility of an environmentally sensitive eco-village style development that would enhance and complement the district's solar and storage project at 13500 Prairie Valley Road and at 12591 Morrow Street, Denike Street. And I'd like to speak on it this evening, Madam Mayor, and vote on it if possible.
Pardon me, let's see if there's a seconder. Councillor Carlson, thank you. And Karen, could you just give me some guidance on process now? Because this is being brought, do we vote now on whether or not we'd like to discuss this further? Is that the process?
Madam Mayor, I think the vote you just had was the vote to discuss further. We can clarify that, however. So the notice of motion has been presented by Councillor Van Alphen, and in order to speak to it this evening, council needs to agree to put the motion on the floor.
Okay, well, we have it on the floor then. So we're good to go. Thank you. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To continue on, my reasoning and thought process for this, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. I guess it starts with the Great Canadian Compromise. You know, for me, the solar storage project on this location has always been, I've always been against it. 1.5 kilometers down the road, I would have been 100% in favor of it. But as I stated, as government states, the magic number is 4, and that's where we're at today. And this project will be going forward. So in fairness of compromise, I thought I'd throw it on the floor that an eco-friendly type of subdivision, pushing it as far as step code 5 and solar panels on the roof and charging stations on each individual unit, possible duplex, fourplex, single family units, rainwater catchments, the whole environmental aspect of what we could do with a project like this to enhance what's going to be there, which is the solar and battery storage project. Enhancing the environment that's up there and working and to enhance the recreational aspect that's up in those hills, the test of humanity and what have you. And the biggest push for this, and my reason for this, bringing this motion forward, it would bring the sanitary sewer system up into that area and hopefully beyond up to Deer Ridge to rectify the problems that are up there today. And it's Deer Ridge and Sunset Place and Morrow Avenue areas. So that's why I brought the motion forward tonight, and I wanted to hear what other councillors have, what their thoughts may be on this. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Alphen. Councillor Traynor.
So this question is for Councillor Van Alphen. So just to clarify, you're proposing that we investigate the possibility of putting a housing development around the solar project. Is that correct? Like in the area around?
Thank you, Councillor Traynor. Yes, exactly. I don't recall off the top of my head how many acres are up there and how many acres are deemed environmentally sensitive, but absolutely. I think tying it in with the solar and storage project that is there today, I think would be a very unique and for some people to purchase homes in that type of environment. I think people, with step 5 type code and things like that, I think people would embrace living in that type of a neighborhood. That's all basically electrified. And but this is not to take away at all from the solar and battery storage project. That is going forward. So thank you.
Can I just have a quick follow-up?
Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Traynor.
Okay. So your motion then would essentially direct staff to start investigating what that might look like in terms of the area, the number of homes, and that kind of thing?
Thank you. Absolutely, 100%. This is the motion, is that council direct staff. Well, basically council direct our CEO to ask staff to look into this proposal and see if there's any merit to it. And, I just think it's, like I say, a compromise. That's all I'm asking for. And the opportunity to investigate that. And there's some potential of housing in that area. I'd like to see it complement what's going to be there today. Thank you.
Good, thanks a lot.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. I'd certainly support this motion. I think when we chose that location, we knew the solar array wouldn't take up all the space and that there would be space there for other things such as housing. So I think we certainly should be exploring that. And certainly we do know there are some environmentally sensitive areas up there, but we can work around it. And maybe with what Councillor Van Elfen's proposing, a eco-village thing, that we could actually embrace some of those sensitive areas within the overall village idea. So I love the idea. I think we need to ask ourselves, why does a municipality own land? And it's to meet community needs. When we sold off Wharton Street, that development, it wasn't just to the highest bidder, do what you want with it. We specifically wanted rental housing on there, and that's what we set out to do, and that's what we got, and that was to meet a community need. So I think it's a great idea, and I support it 100%. Thanks.
Councillor Patton, I see your hand. I'll go to you in just a second. I also support this motion moving forward for staff to investigate. I recognize that there may be difficulties with portions of that site due to environmental sensitivities, but we don't really know until we get that investigation done, until we explore the opportunities. And it certainly is an opportunity. I love the idea. I mean, we already have what is considered quite a unique project there already. Not the solar farm, but the solar and battery storage project. It's the battery storage that really makes this a gem of a project in terms of renewable energy. And I think that having an eco village up there and all of that, everything that is around that term implies, I'd love to live there. It just hits so many things that I'm so passionate about. So I just want to say thank you so much, Councillor Van Elfen, for bringing this forward and seeing where it can go. Because like I said, we won't know what the opportunities are until we get some more input from staff. So thanks again. Councillor Patton and then Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too I want to congratulate Councillor Van Elpen for coming up with this. This is a great idea. I think that staff, I know, will do their best to ensure that whatever land use they come up with, that the developer then can add into a building scheme to incorporate the panels, incorporate other energy efficient products into those homes up there. And but I really do agree with Councillor Van Elpen that we move away from sterilizing Deer Ridge, and will give us the opportunity to get some sewer services up there that are sorely needed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. On to you, Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that some of council have changed their positions on this, because I know when Councillor Van Elpen, or was it Patton, tried to suggest this before, it wasn't well received. So I can see no reason that it shouldn't be done. But my question then would be to Councillor Van Elfen: does this motion also consider there's two properties, one to the south and one to the east, that abut this land, which are also relatively developed? Any sort of development proposal up there should be done in coordination with those properties, or else they will become, stranded islands, landlocked, or there's some term, but anyway, they'd be isolated, and no use would become of them if they can't be developed in an overall plan. So I'd like to see that specifically considered, and that means coordinating with those landowners who, unless they, they can say no, we're not interested, but I would be surprised.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Councillor Barkwell. I absolutely 100% agree with you. Some of the problems we're having up there today, and you're well aware of them, is there's one parcel I'm aware of has a restricted covenant against it. If sewer went up into that area, that restricted covenant would be lifted. So there's an opportunity there. I think it all hinges on a sanitary sewer system going up into that neighborhood, and we're all aware, and I believe the public is aware. On the other side of Deer Ridge, there's some growth opportunities there also for the future, but it all hinges on sanitary sewer. And I wouldn't bring this proposal forward unless that has to be the consideration. There's no point in putting in an environmentally friendly, eco-friendly subdivision on septic. It kind of defeats my purpose. So it all hinges on the sewer system, and we can, as a council, and we can zone that property. Right now it's zoned institutional, and we could change that zoning to an eco-friendly subdivision. I just think, the solar and battery storage project is going in this location, and I think there's so many opportunities here that we're missing. And I think one can really enhance the other, and vice versa. And I'm really excited to see what staff could bring back, and what's the potential. And I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you. Hope I answered your question.
Great. Councillor Carlson.
Just like everyone else, I say thank you, Councillor Van Elfen, for bringing forward your great Canadian compromise. I think it is a good idea to explore this and see what kind of potential there may be. I would like to ask a question of staff. Can we be assured that by doing something like this, it will not delay the progress and the installation of the solar and battery project?
Thank you, Councillor Carlson, through the mayor. Yeah, our intent, based on the direction that we have already received from council, recent resolution from council to move forward with the solar and battery project, that will continue to move forward unless council gives us other directions. So this would be done, I suppose, in parallel, this evaluation of the possibility of this, while we continue to move very quickly in accordance with council's direction on the existing location to complete the solar and battery project.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
I just want to be 100% clear that my intent is not to delay the solar and battery storage project. This motion is to enhance what is going to be going on that property. I just want to see, this could take time. There's no way we're gonna, see eco-friendly village in the next 3 months. It's not going to happen. It's going to take time to get infrastructure in place and what have you. So in the meantime, we're not going to sit back and wait for solar. It's going to come. Like, that's already been determined, and I'm just trying to do this in conjunction. So again, back to the great Canadian compromise. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments before we vote? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great, unanimous vote. Thank you again, Councillor Van Elfen. Okay, any other notices of motion? All right. We're on to information items, and we have 5 pieces of correspondence attached. Is there any piece of correspondence that somebody would like to bring forward for a bit of discussion? Okay, could I have someone bring forward receiving the information items? Councillor Holmes and Van Alphen, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And on to councillor reports. Start tonight with Councillor Trainer.
I don't have anything to report. I attended the, except for I attended the RDOS meeting on Thursday, March 4th, and my report was in our correspondence, if you want to read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
And nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patton.
No, I have nothing to report either this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Carlson.
I've been to Memorial Park 3 times in the last week because it's been nice out, and I look forward to getting some new playground equipment set up there, hopefully sometime in 2021, and also that fitness equipment.
Yes.
For everyone to do some outdoor activity. I think people are going to really enjoy when those 2 things happen in our local park. So, yeah.
Good.
Nice.
Thank you. Sure feels like spring out there, doesn't it? Councillor Barkwell.
I read the Councillor Trainer's report from our RDOS meeting. I'd say it's a very good report. I think we have 2 communications experts now competing to see who can do the best RDOS reports. Whereas we the idea was never in anybody's head that we should do them. I think it's good. Thank you. I haven't been to any meetings in 2 weeks.
Okay, and Councillor Van Alphen, saving the best for last.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur with Councillor Carlson. I'm looking forward to playground equipment and exercise equipment. I look forward to being able to play with my grandchildren if I ever get to see them after COVID, where we get herd immunity, and it'll be all great. And just happy International Women's Day to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Van Alphen. And I don't have anyone lined up to speak. So I will ask for adjournment, please. Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Holmes, all in favor. Thank you. Good night, everybody.